Welcome. I am so looking forward to this conversation. Before we get started, this is Lauren Fogelman with Business Success Solution. And Eliza, I would love for you to just introduce yourself about who you are and what you do.
Hi, I'm Eliza, and I am the firm owner of Counter Tax Service, where we assist companies, health and wellness companies, with preparing their tax returns, some tax strategies to help them save on taxes, and accounting throughout the year to optimize their tax savings.
And if you want to go ahead, just share your website also, because some people might want to follow up with you.
Oh, sure. My website is www.connertax.com, and that's connertax.com.
Excellent. And what I was wondering about is, we've been talking together for a while now. What were things like before we actually started working together?
Before I started working with you, Lauren, I was feeling very overwhelmed in my business. I was working a lot in the business and on the business, and I didn't feel like I was making the revenue that I felt that would satisfy me. I had a lot of concerns about my pricing model and just the workflows of my company.
And with that being said, I know that I talk about working in your business versus working on your business a lot. Can you just maybe differentiate it so that everybody's on the same page as to what that means?
Sure. So working in my business, when I'm working in my business, is usually preparing tax returns, doing a lot of the administrative tasks, the consultation calls and info sessions with potential clients, as well as with actual clients of the firm, answering phones and acting as my own secretary. That was me working in the business. Working on the business was looking for ways to grow the business, marketing, staying up to date on my credentials, and just getting the organization of the business so that it can flow efficiently.
Okay, then what I'm hearing is that working in your business is really more the day-to-day operations, and then working on your business is looking at strategy and taking some action steps for future growth. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, and why did you decide that you wanted some help and support and for us to work together?
I decided that I wanted to get control of my business and the functions of the business, get it structured properly, and get some workflows in order to eliminate that overwhelm that I was feeling. So that is why I reached out to a business coach to help me do that.
Okay, then part of what I was hearing is that your business was really kind of creeping into other parts of your life. Did you feel that that was happening for you?
Yes, it definitely was. I found that I had no time for my family, my children, or my husband, or even time to just relax.
Okay, so you were looking for that structure to really be able to make sure that you had a business, but that you didn't have to sacrifice your personal life in order to make that happen.
Yes, I wanted to stop sacrificing my personal life.
I absolutely get it. I think that we've all been in there at some time or another. And okay, raising your rates is one of the things I am on a mission to help accounting firm owners and tax preparers do. But a lot of times it's not something that happens overnight, actually, for most of us. So how long were you thinking maybe about raising your clients' rates before you actually started to do that?
I was thinking about it about a year before I reached out to you, but I didn't have the confidence to do so. I was unaware of what the market was charging because the market fluctuates from the very lowest to the very highest. It was too much in between to choose from. So I was not confident in my pricing. I knew that I didn't want to be the lowest, but I also wanted to serve my clients in the best way possible.
And with that being said, it sounds like you were aware that maybe you were leaving money on the table or that some clients were undercharged. You just didn't know how to put some things in place to be able to correct that.
Definitely. Most of my overwhelm resulted from me doing projects for clients that I was not charging for. And the reason I didn't charge is because I didn't know what to charge the client. So I did a lot of ad hoc work for my clients free of charge, but it was at a cost of my time significantly.
Absolutely. It's actually something I commonly see is actually doing work, but they're not getting compensated. So you're giving things away for free, and that they have so much value, but just not having those things in place keeps you from getting compensated for it.
It did.
And so were there any obstacles that you faced before making a decision for us to work closely together?
There were no obstacles. I just knew that I needed to set the time aside and be very dedicated to it.
Okay, so it was really you looking at whether you can follow through with the commitment more than anything else. Does that feel accurate?
Yes.
Okay, especially during tax season, you're busy.
Yes.
And I want to just, acknowledge that even though you were busy during tax season, you continue to show up. You are very present. You take action. And as a result of that, we've seen some things happen that, benefited your firm overall. Would you say that you were able to notice some differences even though you were still busy during tax season?
Oh, I noticed a huge difference in my firm this year compared to previous years.
Okay, so now you have my curiosity. Can you share maybe one thing that you noticed this year that was different from last year?
The one thing, well, the biggest thing, because there's many things that were different that were very good for my firm. But the biggest thing that I noticed is that I had time to myself. I was not working. I didn't work a single weekend this year. I didn't work evenings. Normally during tax season, I'm spending about 60 to 70 hours a week working, just working in the business. And then there was working on the business on top of that. There were no late hours. I kept my hours to a minimum, 4-day work week is what I wanted. I got that this year. And 10 to 4 were my business hours, Monday through Thursday. I was able to actually implement that and stick to that this year. That allowed me time for my son and his football practices. That allowed me for time to spend with my husband. That allowed me time to travel and just decompress in the evening. Having dinner at a normal time was the first thing that I noticed. I was able to eat dinner at 6 when typically during tax season, I may not eat my first meal of the day until I'm in the bed around 10 at night or later sometimes. So that is one of the biggest things that I noticed that was different this year compared to previous.
And those things are things that I absolutely love to celebrate in our community. So it sounds like one of the things that you were experiencing before we started working together, which was the overwhelm, was something that you were able to see a noticeable difference during this tax season.
Yes, I gained control of my life.
I am so happy to hear that. Okay, with that being said, let's kind of dive into some of those strategies that were able to grow your bank account as well as free up your time so we can dig further into this.
Of course. So the first strategy was me mapping out what my goals are and just visioning where I wanted my firm to be as far as how I wanted the operations to go, how much money I wanted to make, and how many clients I wanted to serve. That was some of the first few strategies that we put together that resulted in my time freedom. Perfect.
And so with that being said, can you tell me with that, were you able to meet any of those expectations that you set for yourself as far as the strategies?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And so if you were to look at the way that you now are analyzing these projects, how are you maybe quoting them so that it's based on value as opposed to time? Because before you were doing them without even doing an hourly rate, so you weren't getting compensated. So anything that we're doing now is creating a new stream of revenue for you.
Yes, it is. And I've also cut out, clients would ask me to perform administrative tasks that had nothing to do with accounting. So I learned how to say no to things that were not for my firm. And to accept clients that were aligned with where my firm was going.
And I think that that's really important because so many accounting and tax professionals are very, very client-centered. They deeply care about their clients, and the even thought of saying no feels very, very uncomfortable because you're customer service oriented. So I think bringing that into your vocabulary is something that takes courage in the beginning and gets better over time. So what have you noticed as far as how you've been able to start setting boundaries when maybe you didn't have some in place before?
The first boundary that I had to set was changing my personal phone number to force all of my clients to use the business number. Somehow, some way, clients got my personal number. Maybe they were referred by a family member, a friend who had it, or I don't know. But once I decided to split those two numbers, change my personal number, force everyone to call the business number and only answer the business phone during business hours through our listed business hours. That gave me a lot of control on what it is that I was accepting and what it is that I was turning down. I would oftentimes get, like I stated before, I would often get clients to ask me to perform some administrative tasks for me that had nothing to do with their accounting. And it would be a Saturday morning, Saturday evening, Sunday, and I would just say yes, just because I wanted to provide a service to the client without compensation. I just please clients.
So, with that being said, then, before we started working together, how many days a week were you working?
I was working all 7 days.
Okay. And do you know about how many hours a week maybe you were working?
I know that it was definitely over 60 hours, maybe between 60 to 80 hours a week.
Okay. And I also noticed that you mentioned you've been able to take charge of your schedule and your time. Where are you at currently as far as how many days a week and how many hours a week?
I only work Monday through Thursday.
Okay, 4 days a week.
4 days a week, no Fridays, no weekends. And also most days I work 10 to 2, so 4 hours. Some days I push it to 6 hours.
Mm-hmm. And that was during tax season as well, correct?
Yes, I stuck with my schedule during tax season.
Okay. What you've just shared is like a dream for so many tax preparers, and you were able to make it happen and really want to acknowledge everything that you've done to put in place. So I want to get back to the question about, do you have any way that you maybe look at projects now to be able to price them accurately?
Yes, and with your help, I am able to look at projects and price them accurately, and even to turn down projects that are not suitable for my firm. Working with you has helped me to realize that I don't need to work with every client, and I don't have to do every single task that a client wants me to do. So narrowing down my services and my offers, and making my services and offers that I provide be something that is more aligned with my firm and what I actually love doing has helped me out a lot.
And this is where I'm going to get a little bit more further into the conversation. One of the things we did put in place is that you have a flow now, starting with the initial consultation. Can you kind of share where you go from the initial consultation and then what do you do next?
So normally from the initial consultation, we'll go over some questions to determine if the client is ideal for my firm and the services that I provide. Normally, I will just accept any client, but narrowing down the consultation and actually looking at the services that I'm offering and if the client is an actual ideal fit to work together has helped me a lot with determining some clients I just say no to, that we're not a good fit. I'm able to word that appropriately now and recognize when a client is not a good fit for my firm. Prior to that, I didn't. I would accept the client regardless of them being a good fit or not. Even when my red flags were up, I still accepted the client and will work for that client and do every little thing that they could come up with in their mind. A lot of my clients were startups, so they didn't have office staff. So that is why they leaned upon me to perform a lot of the administrative duties that they needed done, which had nothing to do with taxes or accounting. And I was willing to do that. Now, I make sure that I stick within my scope of work that we discussed and what my firm actually provides, and that price range that my firm has decided on the prices for each rate of service. Prior to that, I didn't do that. Prior to that, at accounting records, I will review a tax return. I will spend hours, 4 to 8 hours, looking at it and reviewing the tax return or some accounting or bookkeeping for a client, and wouldn't charge for it. But now I have a process in place where I do charge for those reviews.
Then part of what I'm hearing is, first of all, during that initial consultation, you're just not accepting everybody that breathes and willing to pay your fees. You're now making the decision as to whether they're a fit or not. And then if they're fit, you're moving them into a paid review in order to really assess what their needs are. And by doing that, we created a new stream of income where you're now getting paid for something that you were spending 8 hours or so on giving away for free. Did I miss anything there, Eliza?
You nailed it.
Okay. And so when you were increasing the fees with your clients, were you able to do that without pushback? Or if there was some pushback, how did you address that?
Oh, definitely. There was definitely some pushback because some clients were not accustomed to paying for service at all. So the first time that I charged for actually working, it was like, hey, you didn't usually charge this much, or you didn't usually charge to do this for me. So there was definitely some pushback. The way that I worked through that is I informed my clients ahead of time that there were changes coming to my firm and the effective date of those changes. And then I hopped on a call with each one of them, explained the services that they've received before and the value of those services. And I walked them through actual service packages. Not all of my clients returned, which I was definitely okay with that, because the ones that did not return were the clients that I no longer wanted to work with anyway.
Okay, so one of the things that happens as you're going through this process of reaching out to clients, letting them know that you want to have a conversation with them, talking about what it's like going to be moving forward, is those clients that were headache clients that you were just tolerating anyway, it kind of, they decide then to move forward. And you don't even have to be the bad guy firing them. They do that, they make that decision themselves. So it's like a course correction. Is that what you noticed?
That is exactly what happened.
Now, just because those clients go away, a lot of times firm owners will have fear that, well, they need the money, they need the revenue. They're afraid of losing those clients because it's going to lower their revenues. Was that your experience?
That was not my experience at all. My experience was actually the opposite. I did have that fear, because we will have that fear. That fear doesn't go away. So I was very concerned about my revenues dropping. But I was not surprised that it didn't, because the clients that said yes to the new packages, I would say openly that my revenues doubled this year versus last year, and I have cut my clients in half. So I didn't lose anything, I actually gained.
Okay, so basically, it sounds like not only did you have less clients, but you also doubled your revenues, which means that you got back some of your time. With the time that you got back, did you put that towards business development and working on your business, or did you just spend more time with your family?
I did a little bit of both. I put some time on business development, which I love because I love the direction that my business is going now. And I also spent a lot more time with my family.
Sweet. And were there anything that you put in place to continue fine-tuning your system and continuing this growth path that you're on?
Yes, this year I do quarterly reviews in my business now. Previously, I would do a review twice a year and right after tax season, where are we at and where we want to go, and make the plans going forward. But at this point, I am doing quarterly reviews, and that includes reviewing my relationships with my current clients to ensure that they are still a good fit to work together.
Okay, so you've now carved out the time to really look at your client list twice, 4 times a year, so every quarter, 90 days. And the other part of it, my feeling is that because you're giving it more attention, you're probably more focused on some of the things you need to do to be able to make sure that you're hitting your numbers.
Yes, I am more focused and on the quality control aspect of it as well, because I'm not as overwhelmed. I can serve my clients on a higher level than I was able to do before.
And I think that that's a really interesting concept, is you're now able to actually work with your clients at a higher level. And because that, it makes them actually less price sensitive. But going through this entire journey that you've been describing brings up concerns, fears, worries before you actually step into it. So what were some of the challenges maybe that you had to be able to work through in order to be able to get the results that you've been sharing?
Oh, the biggest thing that I had to work through was to stop being a people pleaser.
Mm-hmm.
I had to get control of myself. And I also had this thing where I would openly admit that I was a workaholic. I didn't mind that the clients called me on weekends and nights, and I was feeling overwhelmed and stressed out, but I felt like that was something that I needed to do. But realizing the effect that it had on my family and not being able to be a part of my children growing and their day-to-day activities, I just had to step back and realize that life is more than just work and money.
And Eliza, that is something that I saw for myself as well, is by throwing myself into my business, my family paid a price. And that's when I knew that things had to change as well. So it sounds like you're now more available to your family, doing things with them that you weren't able to do before. And what have you noticed as a result of that?
I noticed that myself and my family is much more happier now.
That is a blessing.
Our quality of life has increased. We're able to vacation more together and spend time together, going out to see movies, which we haven't done in years. We do have the time and actually want to do it, the time and energy to do those things.
Mm-hmm. I'm so happy for you. It sounds like everybody has benefited from the changes that you've made. So with that, anything about how to value price your work? You've shared some of the changes in your business as well as your personal life. Is there anything else about that you wanted to just mention regarding the value pricing part of it?
I would just mention that for other firm owners, just don't be afraid to do it. Trust the process. And it is definitely rewarding.
And with that being said, if somebody wanted to reach out and talk further with you, Eliza, what would be the best way for them to connect with you?
My email or social media. So my direct email is eliza@connertas.com. That's eliza@connertas.com. And on social media, my social media is I am Eliza Conner. So that is on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Excellent.
Eliza, I just want to say what you have done is really firmly put your firm on the path to having a dream firm, things that you wanted to achieve, you've done in a pretty short period of time. The fact that you were able to have a life during tax season is evidence more than anything else that we can measure. And appreciate you just sharing about what your journey has been this year.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
And this is Lauren Fogelman with Business Success Solution, showing accounting professionals how to double their income working half the time.